sometimes when I come to teach or train, I'm always excited about the different elements that come in front of me, because I know there are subtleties to every tool that I know from my experience, 58 years in the saddle making furniture all my life. So I want to introduce you to a tool. This is called a No.80 cabinet scraper. It's different than the card scraper. You can get a card scraper like this, where you put a burr on it and you flex it and push it onto the surface of the wood with your thumbs, with your fingers. This one holds it at a fixed angle, so the blade slides in there, and we hold it in place and push it across the surface of the wood. But what I want to talk to you about is the nuances that go to set this up. And one of the things I want to talk firstly about is, we call this a scraper, but that's really an erroneous name. It's not really scraping at all. It's got a very sophisticated turned edge on each of the edges, the long edges of the scraper blade. And this is really a pristine cutting edge. And we put it on a bevel like we might with, say, a sharpened edge, but then we turn it slightly and put what we call a hook on it. And that's what we're going to do now. So let me walk you through this, because this scraper is no longer sharp. I can see it's been dulled through use. So I'm going to put this in the vise. So I'm going to show you how to freehand sharpen this, which is a little bit different. Sometimes you might want to use a jig. I've got a video somewhere that's out there that you would use a jig to get this 45-degree angle. This is called draw filing. We're going to put the file roughly at 45 degrees and push it from one side to the other. And that's a remarkable thing, because that is actually giving me a 45-degree bevel all the way across. So that's just taken off spirals of steel, and they've twisted off, and it's left me with a bevel on there. Now, if you want to, you can check yourself, because you do want to be consistent somewhere around 45 degrees. So I'm dead on 45. I would normally do both edges, but I'm just going to do one for this, for showing you what I'm doing here. So I've got this in the vise, I'm holding it, pushing this across, and you'll see that white edge of the dull edge disappear, and you'll see a grey edge go right up to the edge. Then we go to the sharpening stones. Now, I've got 3 sharpening stones in here, but I'm only going to use 2. What I'm going to do, I'm spraying this, so this is just anti-fog and glass cleaner for a car, so it doesn't have any soap in it, so it doesn't get foamy. Usually not any more foamy than I've got there. So which one did I just do? This one. So what I'm going to do is hold this at the same edge. I don't want a second bevel on here. You don't have a second bevel on scrapers like this, on No.80 cabinet scrapers. So I push this across, holding it at that 45-degree edge. Now, it sounds hard, but it's not. You'll feel that edge, you'll feel it, and then go on to the super smooth. So this is maybe 1,000, 1,200. So I keep going until I've got through the striations left with the file, flip over, flat on the plate. Now, this can be done on flat stones of any kind, and you can also do it on abrasive paper. But diamond stones last indefinitely. They go on forever. So I don't have a burr here. Now, I will have a burr here because it pushed it onto that face. But that's not the burr we want for sharpening. So that's why I say it's erroneously called a burr. So what we have to do now, the next thing is we want to consolidate the edge that we just created. Now then, I've got these different tools here purely to show you, you can use just about anything. This is the bevel down. The bevel is on the bench top. So what I'm going to do is take any one of these. I could take the back of the pliers, rub this 30 times across the surface like this. The hardness of the jaws of the pliers will do it. These are special dedicated burr tools. This is hardened steel, and you might want to go this way. So I press it flat on the surface, and I usually count 30 times, but because I'm talking, I can't do that. So I'm just going to go. So I've got the blade flat on the back of the cutting iron, and I'm pressing down, and what that's doing is sending the steel into itself. It's called consolidation. So what I do next is I'm going to put this in the vise. You can hold it with a cloth and do it freehand if you want to. I prefer this. Now I'm going to use the oil from the can in a rag in a can, and push this at the 45 degrees several times. Now I'm sending the steel back into itself. So I'm going at the 45, and now I'm lifting up with each stroke about 4 or 5 times. And what that does is it gives me a turned edge. I'm going to show you what a turned edge is, just simply because you might be under the wrong impression. So here is what I created when I filed it. I filed it so I've got a sharp edge here. But when I come to turn the edge, I turn this like this. I create a turn that's exaggerated, but that's how it looks when it's finished. And this is a superior edge. It's a beautiful sharp edge, and it's the kind of edge you might want on your plane or something like that, your chisels, but it's turned, so it's subtle, very, very subtle. So we take this out. Now I've got a piece of wood here. This is flat. I put my scraper on like this. I'm going to have to play to the camera a little bit. I drop this in behind the holder like that. Now I'm going across the grain because I'll get the pressure on here even across the grain. If I go with the grain, I could dip into a grain striation. So we squeeze the back and cinch these with our fingers, not super tight, just finger tight. And then we take anything we like and press on the edge of this edge until we feel it hit the surface of the wood. Now listen. I can just barely hear it. This is loose on the back. It's not protruding through the surface. So I cinch this tight a little bit more. Then I'm just using a nail punch. It could be a screwdriver or anything to cinch these nice and tight. Oops. Like that. And then we turn this until it just kisses the back of the plate. We shouldn't have a blade protruding. It might protrude just a hair. Now I'm getting no shaving, so if I turn it a little bit more, now I'm getting a shaving. But I want it to be even, so I'm going to check to see that it is even. I'm going to apply more pressure, and then I'm turning this a quarter of a turn. Now I'm getting a shaving on one side, so I'm going to slacken off a little bit because I wasn't even. Press, and then cinch tight again. Let's see what we... Now I can feel it on that side this time. Cinch those tight. Now I'm going to turn this, and I keep turning it, and there it is. And I can deal with any grain in any wood as long as the wood is hard. Now softwoods don't scrape easily. They don't scrape very well at all. The nice thing about this is you can use it on end grain, you can use it on knots, you can use it on wiry grain, you can take shavings like this, and it's as smooth as silk. That's how we use it, that's how we set it up, and that's how we sharpen it.